Welcome to another edition of Eye on Education. I'm your host, Ed Lecious, and we're pleased to have with us today the Superintendent of Schools in Nashua, Dr. Mario Andrade. Dr. Andrade, welcome.
Thanks for having me here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
It's been a busy few months since we last spoke. Here we are, December already, and how'd the first part of this school year go here in Nashua?
It's going fantastic, quite honestly. I've been fortunate enough to be in many of the schools multiple times, and I just have to commend our teachers, our administrators, our paraeducators, our secretaries, more importantly, our students. The work that they're doing in the classroom on a daily basis has been truly remarkable. The amount of teaching and learning at high quality, it really impresses me. So as busy as it has been, with some of our struggles around staffing, just the quality of teaching and learning in the classrooms has been truly spectacular. So I'm really proud we opened up the year with high expectations and high student engagement.
And even though the population has dropped slightly, that doesn't change the fact that every day school's in session, things are happening.
Yeah, so we just actually looked at our October 1 enrollments, our official enrollments. We are down another 200 students. Our official numbers are around 9,700 students. That being said, I think our need has continued to increase. Our students are much more diverse academically, socially, and their needs at home. So the need is still there, even though our student population is going down. But like you said, it's no matter what the population is, we're open 180 days. We don't, like, if teachers are out sick, one or two teachers are out sick, the buses are still rolling, the kids are still coming in. So we just have to make sure on each and every day that we're providing a safe learning environment for our students.
Now, any idea the reason for the decline in the enrollment? Or?
Yeah, so we've been looking at it, and I think it's multifaceted. One is housing. We have students who are just in families not moving into the district. We could look at the housing market. There's not a lot of houses on the market, and if they are, they're not starter homes. They're very expensive. And then the other aspect of just looking at the decrease in the population, of the residents living here. It's we had a demographic study last spring, and we just see the age of the population in Nashua has shifted to older population as opposed to younger families. We have seen students go to public charter schools or parochial schools, and we made the assumption that was a bigger number over the number of years. We're not seeing like a bigger trend since COVID of students going to parochial schools or charter schools. Where we're seeing the changes in families that are deciding to homeschool their children, and those numbers are going up. So that's been the biggest change, really, the homeschool market and really housing.
You mentioned staffing challenges. Beginning of the school year, you were faced with challenge in the paraprofessional area. I would imagine that the same is true now. You haven't caught up?
No. As of last week, we were still down 50 paraeducators across the district. So if anyone's interested in being a paraeducator, there's a link on our website. The application's there, so please come and join us. But we're also down ELL teachers and special education teachers. So as much as we're trying to recruit those teachers and paraeducators, we're just not filling the need.
What are the requirements for a para?
It depends. At most of our schools that are non-Title I schools, you just need a high school diploma. If you're at a Title I school, you need an associate's degree in some of that training. So it's more importantly, as opposed to those credentials, loving kids. Really that compassionate person that wants to do right by students, do right by the school community, have an open-mindedness of what they can learn on the job, be sincere, be responsible, be compassionate, and really be willing to work with students who are some of our neediest students. So as far as the associate's degree or a high school diploma, more importantly is your interpersonal skills. Are you looking to be a great collaborator, problem solver, communicator, and a team player?
Students going back to Pennachuck Middle School this year found a little different look to things.
Absolutely.
How'd the opening go there?
Splendidly. Again, if you haven't visited the new Pennachuck Middle School, the renovations, please contact the school. We'll be more than happy to set up some tours. But the additions are just changed the culture in that building. It feels so much lighter, airier, brighter, roomier. The media center is just, again, just a gem. So there's plenty of space for when they'll be welcoming another about 150 students next year when we do the redistricting. But that has gone really great. And I have to commend, again, the JSSBC, Harvey Construction, and Harriman, and EEI, our construction partners, of just all the work that they did in opening the school on time. So it's been great.
Speaking of opening school on time, the status of the new McCarthy Middle School, going to be ready to roll this year?
Yeah, I'm going to knock on wood right now.
Last I heard, it was on time and on budget.
Actually, yes. So it might be we just had a conversation. It might be a little ahead of schedule, which gives us a little more flexibility in the summer. But it is on time, on budget. We've been taking tours and having some teachers and administrators go through the school just to get a feel of it. But it is coming along remarkable. Just recently, we ordered all the furniture, so that's in place. We'll be receiving the deliveries early spring. So again, now it's on time, on budget. We'll be able to start setting up the school like March, April in some of the wings. So that is really coming along. I think that's going to be another gem for the community as well.
I've seen some drone shots of it. It looks pretty expansive. But in addition to the middle school students, there is going to be an area dedicated to special education?
Yes. So we are looking to consolidate some of our special education programs, more the economy of scale. As I just mentioned previously, we're having a tough time finding special education teachers and paraeducators. So one way is to bring some of our programs together so we have the economies of scale. So there's a better sharing of resources, but also a better sharing of expertise. So again, if we have some of our students with similar disabilities requiring similar services, if they're under one roof, we believe we can provide better instruction and services to those students. So there'll be, I don't want to call it a wing, but a few classrooms that are dedicated on a couple different levels for our special education students.
And that brings us to the elephant in the room, if you will. The redistricting for the middle schools has been completed and approved, and the next nut going forward for you and the incoming new board, the redistricting for the elementary schools. Where are things at the present time with that?
Yep. So just one correction on the middle school. So there's one more vote that's left at the middle school. We're going to be changing or recommending changing one of the lines. There's a group of students that are at Broad Street Elementary School that were assigned in the current redistricting plan to go to McCarthy Middle School. They're the only group of kids who are from the Broad Street area that will be going to McCarthy, and all the other students go to Pennachuck and then to North. These students were an outlier. It just makes sense if we move the line to include those students to go to Pennachuck, then they'll be with their classmates, the same classmates, K through 8 and through high school. So there will be one more tweak. I think that will be coming up at the next board meeting in December. So that should put to bed the middle school lines. At the elementary line, redistricting, last summer the Board of Education voted to wait another year to re-examine what we're going to do with the redistricting. What we're looking at is a bigger conversation with the Board of Aldermen, the mayor, and really how do we move forward? Because this is really, could be a conversation that is bigger than just the BOE or just the school districts. So we want to engage in a conversation. What do our schools look like in 2032? As we mentioned at the beginning of the year, of this conversation, our population's down to 9,700 students. Projections that we had again in the spring and other projections that we still have a declining enrollment. So I think it's really fair to the citizens of Nashua, the taxpayers, the Board of Education to have a bigger kind of conversation on what is the fiscal impact and also the education, what's going to be the educational quality of our schools forecasting out possibly to 2030, 32, 35. And then we kind of come up with that strategic plan to get there. So I don't foresee something happening next summer, but really a task force coming forward to talk about that bigger picture. Is the Board of Aldermen, the Board of Education, looking at renovating Mount Pleasant in 5 years? Are we looking at renovating Amherst in 5 years? What are the costs of that? What's the burden to taxpayers? And I think really we need to start having those kind of bigger kind of conversations as opposed to, are we going to have 12 elementary schools? And if we are, again, what's the impact to our bottom line? What's our budget as well? So I think our next kind of conversation is a bigger task force that involves more of the community players. Again, the mayor's office, the Board of Aldermen, and the Board of Education.
And as they did when they built the two high schools, they wanted equality in terms of the fiscal plant and programs. Similarly, with McCarthy coming online, the work at Pennachuck and the upgrades over at the fairgrounds, again, to have the equal no matter which school your child is going to. And as you say, are we going to have 12 elementary schools, or are we going to have fewer, but they're going to be, if we do new ones, either upgraded or equalized? And it's never easy to close a school. But I look recently in the papers, Manchester is going through a very similar thing, and I believe there's 4 or 5 schools that are being closed and consolidated as they go through the same thing, because their enrollments are declining. Not as great as ours at this point, but as you say, you see into the future, it's something you got to address.
Yeah, so I think that's the conversation as opposed to, and again, I think each one of our schools and our teachers, our administrators, our families, our students, everyone in our schools are doing a remarkable job. It's not about the quality of education. So we don't want to dismiss that. Our teachers, our paras, again, our administrators are doing a great job. I don't think anyone's questioning, again, the quality of education, but it is that larger picture of what does Nashua look like in 2035. And I think that's the bigger conversation that we have to engage in, whether it's consolidating schools or if we keep all the schools open. What's the investment that's going to happen? What's our deferred maintenance? Are we ready for 2 or 3 bonds down the road? And again, what does that mean to the taxpayers?
Speaking of taxpayers, the next thing, and you've probably already started, even though you're only 6 months into the current fiscal year, preparing your budget for next year and looking at it. Each year gets tougher and tougher because you have some grant positions that allow, the grants are going away, and if you retain those employees, they now become yours. And there's one group, I think we were talking before we were on the air, of 20 positions, which you're now going to inherit, and with benefits and everything, that's like $100,000 a position. Yeah. So you're starting off with $2 million in a hole. Yeah. So has the process started, or
the process has started. I think some of the conversations started like 3 years ago. Soon we're like, hey, Ed, we're hiring you for this position, but once the grant's up, we need to kind of reconsider it. But yes, we are having those conversations. So what I've been asking the building principals, our directors, is again, what's the academic return on investment on all of our positions? So if we have a position in ESSA right now, that's a grant position. I'll give you an example of an instructional leader at one of the high schools. So if the high school principal thinks, hey, I think that's a great position, it's through grant, my conversation to them is like, it has to be revenue neutral. What are you giving me somewhere else that we can afford this position. So we're trying to keep our operating budget as level as possible, but as you know, we were also talking before coming on air, is that even before being level, our fixed costs are going up 4% for the teachers' contract. Our bus contract goes up. The cost of fuel goes up. Our cost of heating goes up. So we're already behind the 8 ball even before we say we're going to be, level funded. But we are looking at all those grants to say, what is our biggest bang for the buck? And the harder conversation is, what have we been investing in for years that's not making a difference? And so how do you start eliminating those positions? And so it's not just Nashua or schools, is we're used to adding on and not taking away. So we are having some of those hard conversations internally to say, what is making a difference? What do we have to continue to invest in? And what do we have to stop investing in so that we can come forward with a reasonable budget come the spring? There's no way I'm sitting in front of the budget committee or the Board of Education saying we need a 10% increase. That's not fiscally responsible. I don't think it's morally right to do as a superintendent just to pass the buck. So we will be working really hard on coming in what we feel is a reasonable budget. Two things that we know going into this budget that's going to be a priority is that we do have a Department of Justice report saying that we have to solidify our ELL instruction. And as we mentioned earlier, we're down about 20 ELL teachers. So quick math, if we use the same thing, starting teacher, or even a teacher at $50,000, say they have a family plan, you're looking at $75,000, like an investment for 20 teachers. So that's what, $1.4 million right there, just going into the budget of new positions. So that's going to be difficult, but that has to be a priority when we go forward.
You're planning a meeting with the newly elected board members, but that again is going to be a learning curve for them. Some of them have some familiarity, but not the insight that those who have been on the board for several years now would have. What is your plan with the new board members? Will they get an orientation of sorts?
Yep.
And
so we're currently coordinating some of those orientation meetings, both with his Board of Education 101, what's their roles, responsibilities, what's just how do you run a meeting, right? Robert's rules of order, familiar them with policy. But I want to meet with them one-on-one to see what are their goals, right? So when they leave the board, whether it's in 4 years or 16 years or 20 years, what do they want to accomplish and how can I help? So, and how do they work as a committee to move their agenda to shape the vision of Nashua going forward? So I'm really looking forward over the next month or so getting to meet with them on a one-to-one basis, hearing their goals and aspirations, and then also where I'll be able to individually communicate where I think the school is going as well, so that we can be on the same page and really be a team, because it is a team and through collaboration that we can move the district together. So I'm excited about our new board members. I think we're going to have they're going to continue on what we already have, a really solid team, and I think they're going to help us in the continuous improvement.
looking to 2024, what goals or what would you like to see so come June you can say we did it?
Well, there's a lot. So there's a couple things where just technically, right, like a product, like we're ready to open the school. We're doing all the work right now to make sure McCarthy is on time, on schedule. The redistricting is all in place. The staffing is in place. You know, we're going through a process right now on we have to move around staff at the middle school level. Right? What's that process to do that and make sure that, again, there's enough educators in the building, administrators, support staff in each of the 3 buildings so that we're providing high quality instruction. So that's some of the legwork. That's a solid goal. And like there's a lot more behind the scenes than people can imagine. Just along those lines, McCarthy Middle School should be about 750 students. Elm Street, it's about 900, right? So just a reconfiguration of that enrollment. And conversely, Pennachuck is about 560 students. They're going up to 750 students. So again, just moving the staff around. So that's definitely a goal. The other one is really how do we improve our Tier 1 instruction? So what professional development do our teachers need? We've been working really hard since the beginning of September on ensuring that we have the high quality resources and curriculum for our teachers. Our elementary teachers have been really running full steam ahead on bolstering Tier 1 instruction. And what is that, like, just for not using educational terms, is that we're having the conversation on what do we want all students to know and be able to do at the grade level? How are we going to teach them? What are we going to do when the students meet that challenge and the criteria of grade level standards? And what are we going to do when the students do not meet those standards? But it really comes down of how are we going to address high quality for all students? And in the past, we did pockets, right? We were intervening on interventions, but we're trying to raise, like the old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right.
And so if we look at the overall proficiency scores, it's not where they need to be. So we're trying to raise the tide for all students, and that's through our Tier 1 instruction. So at the elementary level, there's been a lot thrown at our elementary teachers. There's a new math curriculum, a new science curriculum, a new English curriculum over the last 3 years. And that's around really high quality Tier 1 instruction. And we're making a lot of goals there. So the goal there is to raise student achievement, but also support our educators in the change, to lift everyone's expectations on what every student can do academically. At the middle school, we're having a lot of conversations, and it'll be coming up probably in the next 2 months as this is getting aired, around middle school level instruction. For the last number of years, since we went from the junior high model to the middle school model, we had levels at the high school, at the middle school.
Right.
So one of our recommendations to change that policy where there are no levels. So again, how do you lift the rising tide for all students to raise the expectation? So that's going to be a shift at the middle school. So in conjunction with a new school and reconfiguration of people, we also want to raise the academic expectations for all students at the middle school level. And so that's going to be a goal of how do we get that in place and start changing the mindsets, yet give them professional development. At the high school, we have a team that's K through 12 that's working on a portrait of a learner. And so this is a bigger umbrella on what do we want all students to know and be able to do when they walk across the stage? What are those intrinsic qualities that we want to see in every student, whether they're an AP student, a CTE student, a student who just goes, like it's a student athlete, it's just regular, the regular Joe. But we want to come up with what are those characteristics that we want all Nashua graduates to have. And we've been doing that work at the high school level, which will eventually go pre-K through 12. What I'm really impressed with this work is that we have a student voice group. We're hearing from the students. What does it mean to be a graduate? And it's remarkable to hear their perspectives on how they feel treated at school, welcomed at school, valued at school. We hear pros and cons, but to have 100 students sitting in a room answering questions on how they might be able to reshape their experiences and future generations' experiences in Nashua has been so powerful, and that's exciting to see. So we'll continue that work over the course of this next year, which again, I think transform and reimagine opportunities for our students. So if you take all those three together, you can see where we are rethinking like what schools kind of look like and experiences for students. I truly believe Nashua has one of the best slogans out there, the gateway to opportunity. So how do we create 9,700 gateways to opportunities for each and every student, for each and every adult? So imagine what that could look like for a student to go through, no matter what their experiences or potential, is that they have a gateway to be successful. And if we can accomplish that, I think we did our job.
Sounds pretty ambitious,
Yeah.
but you seem to be right on track with things at the present time. So we thank you for being here and taking time out of a schedule. Wish you good holiday season, and I know you'll be busy throughout the holidays as you move into the new year with all those items on your agenda. So thank you very much, Dr. Andrade.
Thanks for having me here, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you very much. You've been watching Eye on Education. Our guest has been Dr. Mario Andrade, the Superintendent of Schools here in Nashua. I'm Ed Leash, your host. Thanks for watching, and have a good holiday.